Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 68 of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, that fella who might be mistaken as a weird, autistic Bigfoot fella. And now for my co-hosts with the most blatant love for music, artists of the Clayton Bigsby variety. Ladies and gentlemen, David Reed. How you doing, David?
Doing pretty good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And our guest this week was 2004. He was trying different things. He was smoking funny things and making diesel in Greenfield listening to his favorite song. Sipping Sierra out the bottle, not thinking about tomorrow. Singing Yeah by Usher all summer long. Ladies and gentlemen, returning for his second appearance on Snarp Fangle, finally, Justin King.
How you doing, everybody? I don't know about the Usher song, but
yeah, what were you listening to in 2004?
I don't know. Probably reggae, hippie music.
Just the reggae stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, hey, good to have you on, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, an honor, all that good stuff. And yeah, I just want to bring you back on. It's almost been, a year since you were last on here?
It's been a while. I think was it last summer? Or?
Yeah, it was the recording or the upload said July 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So it's been about 11 months.
Yeah.
So,
if you want to be technical.
yeah. So, yeah, well, It's good to have you. And for the audience out there, for comments, concerns, thoughts, and hate mail, and what kind of crazy things you've seen in this world, just send them on over. snarpfanglepod @gmail.com. Or you can just text Jake. All right, gentlemen, let's just have a good time, hang out. I figure, you know what? I was listening to the last year's episode. It's so funny. Like, oh yeah, I listened to last year's episode. And it was always a fun listen. For those curious, it's called what's it called? Beer is good.
It's called God is great,
beer is good, and people are crazy.
And it's episode 20 of the Snarp Fangle if you're curious and if you like what Justin says. Or if you don't like what he says, just go give it a listen anyway.
Yeah. I left a lot of stuff out.
Yeah. Well, let's actually, if you don't mind, let's continue some of that. I think you guys are about to get into music or something, or a scary story or something like that. And I don't know. What do you feel like? What's your gut telling you, Justin? What do you want to go with today?
I don't know. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I can get started if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's funny because it was funny. I was listening to that episode last night, and I was playing some Minecraft. And Wesley, shout out to Wesley, has a server
What's up,
up.
Wes?
Yeah. He's got a server going, so he's got it at the house, and you can connect to it through the interwebs. And so I was doing that, and on Discord, you can, like, stream what you're listening to. So I was streaming that in the chat, and some of the boys were listening to it, and you said at a certain point, Justin, you said, yeah, you know what, there's a point in my life, you know, and I guess people have told me I've had this, and I don't know what it is. It's like a spirit or an aura of some kind. And the kids are all like, he said aura.
New word
like
to the kids.
Yeah, it's like a meme now. It's like, he's got the aura, bro. So, but yeah, it was just funny listening to it, and it was a good discussion. And I remember when you guys uploaded that episode, I was in Fresno on a fire, and I was like so surprised because I had like zero communication with David at that point, and I didn't know if there was going to be a podcast or not, and sure enough, there was.
Made it happen.
Yeah. So
it was fun.
Thank you for doing that, by the way, in the ridiculously hot day.
That's all right.
You know, appreciate you.
It's good for the skin.
Yeah, that's right.
Tires
you out, but it's good.
beads.
Yeah, you know, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
That's right. Or makes you crazy, one or the other.
It makes you crazy.
If the skin cancer doesn't get you first, you'll be really, really strong.
You're really strong. We want to keep you around, you know. But yeah, it was funny. I was listening to it, and I was listening to it, this Minecraft server. You know, whenever a young man nowadays starts a Minecraft server, especially young boys, at some point, sooner rather than later, it's going to turn into pure anarchy. There's going to be a bunch of shirtless boys on the Minecraft server screaming, kill the pig and drink its blood. It goes there really quickly. And it was funny because
these are all 13-year-olds.
Yeah, they're all like 13. But I was reading the chat in that server, and it was funny because as I'm reading it, there's like there's some, you know, what's the word for curse words, but it's not affinities, it's profanities or profanity. No, what's the other one? It's
expletives.
Curses.
Expletives. Yes, expletives were said back and forth from a couple members in this Discord. And then I come to find out that 2 people I never met got banned. And I'm like,
Ooh.
what happened, boys? And they're like, well, one guy came in and started griefing people, so he blew up somebody's house. So we banned him. And I'm like, okay, good. And then the other guy came in and said the hard R N-word. And so then we banned him as well. And I was like, well,
less good.
Yeah, less good. So yeah, but they described it to me as the hard R. And I was like, ginger? Like, is that what he said? Like,
The
what's
hard
going on?
R. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's like, the N-word. And they're like, yeah.
On an unrelated note, but related note.
No, he said the full-blown N-word.
Oh.
Yeah, the hard R and everything.
Yeah, on an unrelated note, there's this channel on YouTube that makes like AI generated songs where they basically say the N-word over and over. Like the one that brought it to my attention
no. I think I know what
was
you're talking about.
was a reworking of what's his face, the Rickroll guy.
Oh, Rick Astley.
Rick Astley, yeah. And instead of it was I want to say tonight was the title of the song, and yeah, the channel name is Hard Archive.
Oh wow. I need to do some Googling later on.
It's good stuff.
Is there a lot of songs on there?
Yeah, there's quite a few actually.
Oh wow.
It's all AI
It's
generated.
all AI generated.
Yeah.
Make an AI sound.
You can get into trouble.
Yeah, it's
Do the YouTube rules apply if it's from a robot, or does it apply if it's from a human?
No, because
I mean,
the
there's
robot's
a-
controlling it.
there's a huge undercurrent of that type of content on YouTube, which you wouldn't think, but there really is. There really is.
Yeah.
Like they're just not quite as they confine themselves to certain channels, and it seems like they're allowed to exist as long as they don't interact with, the culture at large. It seems like that's the system that's in place.
Well, that reminds me of there's some weird playlists you can find that are supposed to be like YouTube Kids playlists on YouTube, but they'll just be full of like 2 people dressed up as like these versions of Barney and Batman or something, and the Hulk, and then they'll fight each other and punch each other. And then if you get that video in your algorithm, then it'll start recommending you like other stuff.
Creepy stuff.
Yeah, real creepy stuff that's supposed to be for YouTube Kids in quotes.
Yeah.
But then people take advantage of that. And there's been like so YouTube has cracked down on that stuff, but it would lead to weird stuff like that kids would be watching just randomly.
Yeah, the stuff on YouTube Kids, before the crackdown was some of the most
It's so weird.
heinous crap I've ever seen. It's like this is the product of people letting phones and tablets raise their children. They're just like, oh, it's YouTube Kids, therefore it must be okay, and it's the furthest thing from okay.
Yeah.
One thing I don't like about YouTube Kids, I don't know what it is now, but after the video ends, the screen just goes black.
Yeah. You just want
Instead of it going to something else.
to something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they restrict autoplay on YouTube Kids.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, they'll bring up like suggestions, like what else do you want to watch, but
Yeah.
it'll end.
I know too, you can't comment on made for kids videos.
Yeah.
Which really, really annoys me when I'm watching a video that somebody happened to just flag as made for kids. It's like not a kid's video, but they just flagged it made for kids when they uploaded it. And I like go to like, minimize it so I can scroll through another YouTube listing or whatever while I'm listening to it. And then as soon as I do it, it's like, mini player not available and made for kids. And I'm like, I try to exit out of it, and it just like,
It's a trap.
it like freaks out and makes me like, I waste like 30 seconds trying to just close the darn video.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super annoying. I remember the church's YouTube account, and when me and Nicole were first getting it started, it was so confusing because on the YouTube end, I think at that point they didn't say like for YouTube Kids, but they said, is this for kids? And you're like, well, it's a sermon, so I guess, yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah, it's for anybody. And so we would click that, and then it would be in YouTube Kids, like the algorithm or whatever, and you can't comment, and the likes weren't shown. I'm like, what's going on? So I went and changed all that, and you have to click no if you don't want any YouTube Kids. So it's like a weird setting, and they don't advertise it. They do now. They say
They
hey,
just
this
don't
will
want the
be-
kids reading.
Yeah.
People coming in and commenting. And,
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah.
things they don't really explain the implications of saying it's made for kids when you upload it. You're just like, is this video made for kids? And if it's family friendly, you might think, well, yeah, sure. And then, but they don't tell you what that means when you actually click that button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. YouTube's always been just vague in general to kind of like push whatever they want into the algorithm or manage it the way they want.
Yeah, they're pretty sneaky.
Yeah. Did you ever, Justin, hear about the adpocalypse in like 2018 or whatever?
Adpocalypse. I was probably a part of it.
Probably. No, I'm joking.
I
Well,
was probably a victim of it.
it started with a spat between Steven Crowder and Vox. Do you know what Vox is?
Yep.
Yeah. So it started. They made like a reply video to Vox, like critiquing and pointing out all the fallacies in their arguments of whatever topic it was about. It was like immigration or something, and they've done that for years. And then this one, the guy who was making the video at Vox,
Mm-hmm.
had a contact at YouTube and started complaining incessantly to them. And then the adpocalypse started, which was basically it would go through. The algorithm was changed in a way, from what I understand, that it would go through and it would hard flag your videos versus like, hey, this is demonetized or this is like limited reach or something.
If you say the wrong thing. Or...
Yeah, if you say the wrong thing or say a certain person's name. In fact, I think today there's still certain names you can't say on YouTube. Otherwise, the algorithm will flag it and you will get banned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what those names are. I've never heard them. Maybe one or two, but it's weird how that's how they manage their content. And it's been to the point where it's easily manipulated in terms of what they can do to it. But it's been years since that's happened, and it's been like better, worse throughout the years. But
seems always lean to one side.
Yeah. Oh, it's always political.
Yeah.
I mean, Steven Crowder, this right wing commentator, Vox, heavily left.
I always get Steven Crowder and David Crowder mixed. But
One's got a
Steven
beard.
Crowder is the one that's always like, prove me wrong or whatever.
Yeah, changed my mind.
You're changed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was those were
with
fun
the
when
college
those started.
campuses and stuff like that.
I remember when those started. Those were fun to watch.
They are fun to watch, and it's you get a lot of information from stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
you see how some of these college kids are uneducated.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah. Do you remember the adpocalypse, David?
I do remember the adpocalypse. I remember it didn't affect my life, but it was like one of those things I was very aware of simply because a lot of the channels I followed were all right-wing channels. So it was like all of them were talking about the adpocalypse because it all affected them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also that was the big thing about the adpocalypse is that, and same thing with Twitter when I think they restricted paid political ads is what they stopped on Twitter, which was interesting because they stopped that and they say, hey, no paid political ads. But then you go on Twitter and it's all very leaning to one side. And so the other side who wanted to pay for political ads couldn't pay for that stuff to be on there. And there's a ton of reach on there as well as YouTube. So
Very biased.
very biased indeed. And it's funny how now in this era here that we're in, it seems like some of the companies are kind of advertising that they're taking a step back from it, but I don't know how much real change will actually happen with that.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we're entering like a new era of freedom of speech on the internet.
The golden age of YouTube is coming back.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
We'll see. This
we'll
is the
see.
month of June, so we'll see what companies are going to advertise their quote-unquote rainbow agenda.
Oh, speaking of that month, I saw a hilarious post on Facebook. It's like, it was like a screenshot of this like group for like small churches, and it was like, I think it was like media focused or whatever. It was like small churches helping each other out with media stuff, and
Sounds like a scam. No, I'm just kidding.
and it was like this one. It was just a picture of this one post on there, like like asking, does anybody know, where I can find some, like high quality Pride Month motion graphics? And this is on a Facebook group for churches, by the way. And yeah, it was
It's
like
probably a Methodist.
all the comments were like listing all the verses about were like name dropping all the references, the addresses where all the verses that condemn homosexuality. And it's like the group that reposted that screenshot is like, we did good, boys. We understood the assignment.
That's funny. Well, it's funny. I was just on Twitter today, and yeah, you'll maybe see some Pride stuff on there, maybe. But in my feed, it was funny. People were talking about a video game developer posted a thing about Men's Mental Health Month, which is apparently this month, which is also June. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then everybody started retweeting that post from that video game dev. And they're like, yo, this is what June should be about. It shouldn't be about Pride Month. It should be about this. So, and I think, honestly, I'm kind of for that. I mean, Women's Mental Health Month and Men's Mental Health Month, why not? I think that'd be cool.
Where's the White History Month? That's what I want to know.
It should just be Crusades Remembrance Month.
There
That's
you
what
go.
it'd be, the Crusades Remembrance Month.
Yeah, what's really funny, too, is I remember way back in the day, well, this is not way back in the day, but before, shall we say, the great shift of 2024.
Yes.
Somebody asked the question, why isn't there a white history month? And the answer given to them was that because every other month is White History Month. And I thought about that recently. I'm like, you know what? Those terms are acceptable to me.
Every other month.
Like if every other month was truly White History Month, then yeah, you guys can have your Black History Month. Right? That's fair. Fair is fair.
Sure,
I just
David.
don't understand why we
I'm
have
just
to
kidding.
put
That's a joke, by the way.
a month
okay.
aside for that,
Yeah, it's a weird concept
Everybody's got
itself,
history, and it's, it should be all the time, I guess. I mean, we shouldn't have to talk about it all the time, but,
Yeah. Well, it's also something that's like exclusive to America and like basically just the West. Like,
yeah. And it's
all
like
it is.
the main word, history.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's not present. It's
No.
history.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I think the idea is kind of cool, but then you get the thing of what people who are in charge of this kind of thing they say it's this month or the next or whatever. They take Washington and Lincoln's birthday and just make it President's Day. They don't make it two different holidays. But it's like, I'm ready for Teddy Roosevelt's birthday.
Yeah,
that's what
right?
I want. That's what I want as a national holiday.
What about Taft?
The concept of a Black History Month isn't like awful on the face of it.
No, on the face.
But it's like,
yeah.
it's been pushed too far
Yeah.
in our culture to the point where now there's like people are putting out like children's books about
Mhm.
British Black history, and talking about things like Stonehenge. And it's like, I don't think that exists. British Black history didn't exist when Stonehenge was being built.
Yeah, and it's the people who also do that. They also leave out a lot of details like that or something else, and it's just it's very like favorable to, I don't know, somebody's exclusive worldview.
Yeah, because it's like
Nobody really knows far back.
There's some theory that's sort of currently popular right now that the ancient ancestors of the modern day Britons, the ones who built Stonehenge, would have been of a darker complexion than the modern British man. That's sort of like a popular sort of historical theory that's going around right now. And then it's like, okay, we could debate on whether that's true or not. Look at the evidence. Sure, fine. But then when you take that concept and you like, okay, now I'm going to talk about how the people that built Stonehenge tie into quote unquote Black history. It's a little bit of a stretch.
Well, it also
Some people say Jesus was black.
they
A
sure
lot of
do.
people
They
say
sure do.
Jesus was black. That reminds me. After I hope it hasn't been taken down. I'll have to show you a video I found about.
That's got to be bad.
Oh,
then.
no.
If it has,
Why don't you lead with the
I hope it hasn't
conversation?
been taken
I hope
down.
it hasn't been taken down yet.
I think I showed it to you already. It was the one about the black Hebrew Israelites or whatever, and like the black dude with the Asian girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah. That's good.
That one's good.
It's pretty good.
I don't recommend to kids, but yeah, I recommend it. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have to show that to Justin. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. It's like, man, the things that get banned or whatever. So, well, also like the idea of Indigenous Peoples Month or whatever. It's like weird because that's also kind of like iffy in terms of like historical stuff. Like, well, the white man stole it. Well, who stole it from you? And who did you steal it from? And then there's a lot of lines of people who inhabited a land.
Historically, California, there's a lot of tribes that are still, still present in this day, Pomos and Wailaki and stuff like that around here. But the Spaniards actually stole it from them. And then I'm guessing back in the late 1700s, early 1800s is when the quote unquote British white, Caucasians stole it from them. So,
well, I mean,
yeah.
like out here, like California was pretty much all under the control of, like, you had the Spaniards originally came in and colonized, and then you had the nation of Mexico was formed.
Which was up California.
Yeah, and so basically this whole area was under the control of the nation of Mexico until rather recently, in fact. Like, the United States was well established at that by the time that we ended up annexing
1850, right?
This era.
Something like that.
I like the word annexing. We annexed.
There's all that gold in them hills.
Well, it was kind of a weird thing too, because they were controlled by Mexico, and then at one point they decided that they were their own independent nation. That's where you get the California Republic that's on our flag. And then that somehow the United States came in and is like, actually, we're in charge now.
Yeah.
Jefferson State 1.0.
And we're going to put a grizzly bear on the flag.
Yeah, let's put
which
that
we
on
don't
there.
even have it anymore here.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, well, there were grizzly bears here at one point.
Yeah.
I think John Bidwell killed the last grizzly bear.
He probably
in
did.
Chico.
I
That's
mean,
a random poll.
a lot of big animals were hunted out by people. It's funny, like you see lions referenced a lot in the Bible. And the funny thing is there's no more lions in the Middle East because that species of lion that was native to the Middle East is now gone. I believe it was called the Mesopotamian lion, is now gone because the Romans killed them off because they captured a bunch of them for use in the Colosseum.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't even thought of that. Dang.
Can you imagine seeing that nowadays, the Colosseum? Somebody gets in this huge arena with the lion.
That'd be gnarly.
It'd be like the UFC
of the day.
It'd be kind of.
I mean,
people pay big bucks to see that.
That sort of.
Light bulb.
That sort of thing was
Rush will allow it. Let's do it there.
Stuck around a lot longer in other forms than people like to think about, because it's like, sure, gladiatorial games died out a long time ago, but until comparatively recently, you had bull baiting and bear baiting, where it was like fighting dogs, the ancestors of like the modern day pit bull and the modern day American bull terrier, were bred specifically to go in and square off against large animals like bulls and bears.
Yeah. Or
Pretty gangster.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing too, is like pit bulls are like, oh, they're so scary, but it's like people are scared of the wrong thing. Like, a pit bull's not going to bite your kid, but it might eat your neighbor's dog
Chihuahua.
if you don't socialize them properly.
Sure.
Because that that instinct to kill other animals is still very much a part of their
well, it's in
their
all
breeding.
the dog's blood. Yeah, I know more Dalmatians that are meaner than pit bulls.
Yeah, you got to really be careful too with if they lock on each other, like you ain't getting them off of each other because they were bred for things like bear baiting, where the dog would literally latch onto the bear's neck and hold on for dear life as the bear just flailed it around to try and finally bring it down to where it could be killed.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of any dog fighting happening like locally around here?
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, me neither. Oh yeah, you're the kingpin of
Like
them.
I'm gonna tell you if we're all recording.
Well, I remember
I've heard of rooster
I've
fighting.
heard of rooster
the
fighting,
Hispanics
too.
around here.
Cockfighting.
Yeah, I've heard of
Yeah.
cockfighting. Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never personally.
I've never
seen it.
personally, been part of it, but
I mean, you are an honorary Mexican,
yeah.
so that might be the
Okay,
next thing on your list.
Wait. Okay, there has to be some context before you say that, David. I was at a gathering. It was
gathering.
It was a Friday night Bible study, and I was leaving.
Oh, is that the one in Hamilton?
Yeah, the one in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And pretty much it's 99% Mexican. I'm like the only white guy and maybe one other white guy. But anyway, I go there and they do a really good job. The Holy Spirit's there. I always feel like I'm filled whenever I'm leaving, and I'm leaving. So I'm leaving, and it's at the end of the night. It's like 10 p.m. We're there late. And I say goodbye, and then somebody, brings me to the side. We talk, and then I say goodbye again, and then the same thing happens to another person. And then by the time it's said and done, I've said goodbye like 5 times. And then one of the guys, David.
Did you ever say adios, amigos?
No, not yet. And so anyway, one of the guys, David, shout out to David out there. He comes up to me and he says, "Hey, wait, you've said goodbye like 5 times already. You know what? I'm saying it now. You're an honorary Mexican." I was like, thanks.
Go
pal.
around and shake everybody's hand.
Yeah, hermano, hey, So yeah, that just, and he's
You
Mexican.
paying respects,
so,
buddy.
I mean,
he says I'm an honorary. That's
it
what
makes
words.
it makes a lot of sense because
why? The haircut I got. Is that
no.
what you're saying?
It makes a lot of sense because Thad, your brother,
no.
is an honorary Arab.
Wait, what? Oh, from like Steven's parents or something, or
That's Syrian.
Where did you witness? Did you witness this? So
I might have. It's all foggy. Remind
so one thing that I learned at this at a wedding of 2 people, one of which has
wedding of
a lot
2 people.
Let's keep it vague.
One of them, which has a large number of Syrian relatives who all came out of the woodwork for this particular, and by out of the woodwork, I mean from places like L.A. and
yes,
not yeah.
yes.
Anyway, so I had always assumed that the tongue thing, yeah, was like a Muslim thing. Turns out it's not a Muslim thing; it's an Arab thing, and I found that out because most of his dad's family came from a community in Syria where they were mostly Christian.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I learned that it's not a Muslim thing at all. It's just an Arab thing.
Yeah, it's a
And then I also
cultural type thing. Yeah.
I also learned that men don't do it.
It's women. Yeah.
It's women who do it.
Did you do it, Jay?
Yeah, I did it
you
at the
do
wedding.
David?
Yeah.
Did you do it?
I did.
I think I did it too.
I didn't do
Well, it
it.
was hosted on your
Couple
property.
beers in, I'm all-
I didn't do it. I
know my cultural boundaries.
Yes, definitely. No, I'm kidding.
That was an awesome wedding, by the way.
That was great.
It was really
so
fun. But one thing that happened was your brother sort of just swooped in on a group of ladies doing it, and he did it with them.
all the other guys are like, "What the heck? Maybe
doing?
he's retarded."
And
Maybe just a little touch.
he swooped in and participated in it with this group of ladies who were doing it. And then after it was done and the group was dispersing, one of the older ladies, I was watching this happen. I was watching this happen.
Eyewitness.
One of the older ladies came up to him and put her hand on his shoulder and it's like, you're part of the family now.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I could see that on film.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got that cultural usurpation in your blood. You know what I'm saying?
They accept me for who I am. Like this guy's cool. We'll do that. Maybe it's part of my aura. Like
Aura. You kids.
Throw off that beaner aura.
Oh God, dude, David. Speaking of the guy who said I'm an honorary Mexican, he's like, call me Beaner. I said, no, I'm not calling you that. And like in front of 20 people, he said, call me that now. And I'm like, no.
Well, see, you're not really an honorary Mexican until you do that.
You have to do that.
No,
They're all pretty cool dudes over
they're all
there.
pretty cool though. Yeah, they're all pretty fun.
You know what's really funny?
I was like, no, I don't want to call you that.
You know what's really funny is in certain circles, like that can almost rise to the level of like a racial slur.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you step outside of those circles, it's like nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
It's the only people calling it a racial slur are the people that are outside of the circle.
Yeah.
Which is really
like
funny
the little
hearing
college liberal girls, white girls.
hearing people at work call each other frijoleros.
Frijoleros.
Yeah. It means beaner.
Like frijoles.
Like frijoles,
Yeah.
but frijolero, one
Yeah.
who makes frijoles,
Yeah.
one who beans.
Nice.
One who beans. Wow.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt and a bumper
I'm
sticker.
gonna make a T-shirt that says that right there. Oh man. Anyway, well, I'm glad you guys aren't part of any cockfighting ring or
that you know
like
of.
that I know of. Well, I remember in Hamilton specifically, there was for a second like a news report saying there was alleged dog fighting happening. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
but I'm like, that was like 10, 15 years ago or something.
I'm sure it's going on
I mean, it is going on.
these rural areas like this.
Yeah.
What was that like 10 years ago that Michael Vick got busted for doing it?
Yeah.
Think
I
so?
remember
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
He was fell prey to the Madden curse.
Oh yeah, the football player. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. So. I remember that story. Yeah.
When I was a kid growing up, it was rural Mendocino County. I remember one of our there were Hispanics next door, or one of our neighbors. They had like 6 kids, but they always had cousins and stuff come over once or twice a month, and they'd like boil or barbecue a goat's head and all this weird. It was weird to me, but yeah, they always had these little cages with little roosters in them. They were the tiny little roosters, like bannies or something. And I still remember seeing little cockfights going on. I never knew what it was, but
How old were you?
I don't know. I was probably. I think we moved there. And when I was in 6th grade or something like that. So it was like 6th grade. So what? I don't know, 12 or 13 or something. I don't remember.
Was this before Germany? This is before Germany, obviously.
No,
Or after Germany.
No, this is after. Yeah. This is way after. But yeah, me seeing that, I'm like, oh yeah, they're just fighting roosters. But like as an adult, I'm like, oh no, they were betting.
Yeah, they were betting.
Like this was illegal gambling.
Yeah.
Because one rooster always ended up dying.
Dang. Yeah.
And to us, it was just like, oh,
yeah, it's
that's
chicken.
sad.
Yeah, that's sad. We're out in the
And
country.
then they'd sacrifice a goat and slice its throat and it would bleed out and stuff. And it's like, as kids, we're like, oh, that's, I guess that's their culture. But
I guess that's their culture.
Come to find out, it's like illegal.
Oh, man.
Their cousin Pedro always had these bricks of something. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
He always hid them back behind the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Had
family
a
always
chemical
said
smell
they had
coming out of his truck. No.
that family always said they had Colombian roots.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I always I remember that. I've never seen dog fighting before. Dog fighting.
sounds
That's
way
pretty
more,
rough. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like way more inhumane.
Yeah. Dogs,
Chicken, I'm like, whatever. It's a rooster.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're
They got
assholes
claws
anyway.
Yeah.
They're roosters.
Nobody
Dogs,
cares.
Like, ooh, that's
Yeah.
not
Dogs
good.
are a little more.
What's
They're
really
man's best friend.
What's really bizarre is I've heard that even when dog fighting was like a socially acceptable thing, like the fighting dogs were still considered to be man's best friend. Like they were family pets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
Wow.
And so it was like it had such a legitimacy in the culture of that time that people didn't bat an eye at that this dog bred to fight another dog, possibly to the death, was also just, the family pet, that all the little children was like, doggy.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's sad in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't feel bad watching two Chihuahuas fight. But like a family dog,
Yeah, two Weimaraners or a bulldog.
Yeah.
Oh.
something bigger. The bigger dogs, that's the scary. I don't want to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
But two tiny little, Chihuahuas.
Those little a-holes.
Those are
they're
ankle
little
biters?
freaks anyway.
more rats than dogs. Anyway.
And where
Yeah.
did those guys come from? There's the wolf and then other breeding of different types. and then that guy.
Chupacabras.
What's really funny
Chupacabras.
is I'm pretty sure the Chihuahua were actually bred for like the
Like the rich or
actual
something, or-
dog fighting at some point.
Really?
They're running packs and
Oh,
take you down by
dang.
your ankles.
That's funny. When you said packs, it reminds me of a story. So when we were out in no dog fighting, but dog cuteness. So we were out in Capay. I think it was slightly raining, and we were going door to door selling taco feed tickets. Steven was driving, Connor was with me, and then somebody else. And then we were going down this driveway, and then there's like the driveway, and it goes past the house, and then it wraps around to the back, right? Well, we're going to go to the front of the house, so we're going down the driveway slowly, and then we turn in front of the house, and then it was before the turn. Right before the turn, around the corner, no joke, like a whole pack of baby golden retrievers start like flopping their way at us, and they're like an intruder, and they're just like puppies.
But they just
And they're
want to play.
Yeah, they just want to play it, so they're all like, we all like in unison.
It's like a Disney movie.
Aww. And then me and Connor get out of the car, and they're all jumping at us as we're going to the front door, and they're just the cutest thing ever, man. It's so cute, so adorable.
So did you guys like run them over? Or?
No.
What's the end of the story here?
Steven just hit the accelerator and just kept going, He's like,
Extra points, right?
Extra points.
I'm waiting for the climax of the story.
This will
here.
sell
No, I'm
some.
just kidding.
This will sell some taco feed tickets. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
But yeah,
You just made tacos
There's
out
some-
of the
there's
golden
some-
retriever puppies.
anybody
Just
eat dog around here?
Speaking of eating dog, did you hear about how
Did you hear?
North Korea, in response to the rising trend of dog ownership in Korea, declared that raising dogs for anything other than eating is
Like a waste.
anti-communist, and it's a practice of the bourgeoisie.
Ooh.
Oh wow!
I love bourgeoisie.
Yeah, that's a good beer I hear, right? Sounds like a beer. That's crazy. I did not hear about that.
What
What
a dog
it's like
tri-tip tastes like.
it makes me think. It's like, so they're basically saying that dogs are awesome because having dogs as pets is anti-communist,
Oh, yeah.
and being anti-communist is freaking awesome,
Freaking
dude.
awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. It's like that scene from The Patriot where
David sounds like he wants to be a Korean, or I mean
a North
North Korean?
North Korean. Yeah.
Korean?
Do you want to be a North Korean, David?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're gonna come back in 10 years.
He's like,
and
I love
let
no
me tell you
rights."
the story of how I overthrew Kim Jong Un. And you come back and you got all these chicks with you, and you're like, I made peace with the U.S., baby. They like this beard, and that's on every poster,
I don't know why, but that reminds me of the Family Guy thing where it's like one of the cutaway gags where Peter goes to the hood to say the N-word.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't show it. It just shows him coming back with a robe and a crown. He's like, they respected me for it.
Yeah, he goes, he's about to say it, and then it cuts, and then he walks in the kitchen with a robe and a scepter. Oh, that's great. Did anybody ever call you any obscenities and expletives, Justin, growing
Yes,
up?
a lot, yeah.
Any specific to your race? Anybody call you a whitey boy, a cracker?
Not really. I mean, where I grew up, there really was. I didn't grow up in the city or anything. I mean, it was small town stuff, but
He grew up with the good old boys.
The good old
yeah, I mean,
The kinfolk.
yeah. There was a pretty even amount of my friends that were, if you want to say Caucasian or white, and then Indian,
It's
natives.
okay to be white, Justin.
Yeah. Some people want to say indigenous, the indigenous over there, but we always call them Indian, the natives. And then there was, I had a couple, black friends, African American friends. We had some Chinese friends. But I mean, it was all pretty even.
I'm sorry, just my brain went in different directions.
I mean,
you said I had a couple black friends growing up.
Yeah, and they were actually twin brothers. They were
really?
skateboarders and stuff. They were awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Shout out to Dante and Jamar. I'm not gonna say your last name, but yeah, no, they were cool guys. But yeah, I don't know. There was more white guys that insulted other white guys than anything. Bunch of white trash.
Lots
over
of
there,
white on white crime.
there was a lot of white on white crime. Yeah.
White on white crime.
There wasn't a lot of Asians, growing up. There really wasn't a lot. There was more Mexicans than anything growing up.
Yeah.
And we were all friends, but
I mean, it's California. They're
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Growing up. And they all like the Mexicans, they all came from, their parents were immigrants over here. They were migrant workers. They did work where I grew up, there was a lot of vineyards and stuff for wine grapes and stuff. But these were the offspring of those immigrants. So they were spoiled, I don't have a word for it, but they just entitled, they were born in America. So they were Americans, but they were entitled. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to say any more about that. They were all right, but yeah, they just felt like they owned the place kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to live with it.
You know what my mom always said? She says, you know what, I'm no respecter of persons. I treat everybody the same. And
Yeah.
she raised us that way. Like, obviously, you got to be good to everybody. But she said for her, the one thing she is prejudiced against is attitude.
That's exactly, yeah.
That's like
I show everybody love, but
yeah, same.
even if you're rude to me, I'll still show you love, but
Yeah.
I might not trust you, kind of.
Yeah,
you know
or
what
lose
I mean?
respect. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Yeah. I'll still show you love, but
Yeah, I'll still show you love, but it's like,
yeah,
whatever, dude.
or I'll avoid you.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
You know, I don't want to be abused,
Yeah.
verbally abused.
Some people like that.
Yeah,
Ooh, I don't. Yeah.
it depends by who. My wife verbally abuses me all the time. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah.
That's one of those. That feels like the setup for one of those jokes where you talk about your wife's boyfriend.
Oh man.
He buys me Taco Bell all the time.
Oh man. That's crazy. All right. Well, hey, I was wondering if we go around the way here. And I want to poke you a little bit, Justin. I want to get a couple stories out of you before we have to get out of here.
I hope it's good.
Well,
good
I
ones.
want something. I don't really care about parameters or what kind of subject it is, but I mean, we're talking about race. We're talking about where you grew up. We're talking about Mendocino County. We're talking about all
yeah.
that stuff.
The good
You
old
went to
Mendo.
someplace called Greenfield at one point in your life, from what I know.
I lived up there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about
That
Greenfield.
was a chunk of my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
What was that all about?
early child, or my what would you say? My early adulthood, late childhood, early adulthood.
Mm.
Because I started living up there when I graduated high school when I was 17. It just sounds smart, but I graduated in June and then I turned 18 in July. So
okay, yeah.
I sound smart when I graduated when I was 17, but then I turned 18. But yeah, I moved up to Greenfield after I graduated with a buddy of mine. His parents had a place. I think they had like 20 acres or something up there. It's not like around here in the valley where 20 acres is flat. It's like 20 acres of rolling hills and stuff. So
Dang.
it really doesn't seem like much when you're up there, but
This is in Oregon?
no, this is up in Mendocino County here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So where we're at now doing the podcast, if you go over these hills west of us towards the coast, it's just out. It's between Ukiah and Redwood Valley, west of Ukiah and Redwood Valley. It's a big ranch. I think it was like 50,000 acres.
Whoa.
Some old guy a long time ago owned it, and he had like a cattle ranch or whatever. He like set it aside for, I don't know what they did. They sublet it or whatever you call it, where you break up into different parcels. Mm-hmm. So it was 50,000 acres, and then they started breaking it up into different parcels over the years. I mean, this was back in like, I think the 1800s or something, and then over the 1900s, they started breaking it up. So when I lived up there, everybody had like a 25-acre piece. I mean, some people had multiple 25-acre pieces. But they're all a bunch of hippie people up there. I mean, like, I'm talking hippie, like live off the land kind of stuff. But a buddy of mine, he was a good friend, one of my best friends. He was actually in my wedding. His parents owned a piece up there, and his mom and my mom were good friends. They played softball together, and she worked at the health club over there and stuff like that. And me and him skateboarded. We were big skateboarders and, pot smokers and stuff like that back in the day. But anyways, so when I graduated, I was like, I kind of want to go up there and check it out. And so his dad had built this teepee. It's like a legit, like huge teepee. I mean, if you measured it across, I think it was like 30 feet across.
Holy
like
cow.
in a, like if you measured all the way across, it was big. Like and it had a big fire pit in the middle and stuff, and it had the smoke flap and all that. I mean, it was legit. And anyways, he built it just as a craft or whatever, like a hobby. And anyways, so I showed interest in that, and he had asked his dad, "Hey, do you care if Justin comes up and stays with us for a while?" Well, this was in the summertime. And his dad's like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, he can come up, he can stay in the teepee, And well,
yeah, there you go.
I stayed a couple nights in his room, my buddy's room, while his dad was getting the teepee ready. And the teepee, once he cleans it up and everything, he put like fresh that outdoor grass or whatever, that fake stuff, the green rollout stuff, artificial grass, whatever it is, turf or whatever. Yeah, it's like artificial. Yeah. He like cleaned it up and put all that in there for me and everything. And anyways, it was like a week later, I moved in there, and I had just sleeping bags and little hammock and stuff, and I had it was like a 2-deck karaoke machine thing, but it ran off of D batteries. So nice. It took like 8 D batteries, but that was my boom box. It was pretty sick. But this was 2003. It was
a Zenith brand, by the way.
I think it was Zenith. Actually,
what? No way. I was joking.
Yeah, no, I think it was. But anyways, yeah. So I was just chilling up there for a while, and so summer passes and we're going into winter, and his dad asked me like, "Hey, are you wanting to stay for the winter or whatever?" Like, and I'm like, I have no other, I could move back down with my parents. He's like, no, like we want you to stay, but like if you want to stay, we need to start thinking about wintertime. So like we need to cut some firewood and, because there's a fire pit in the teepee. And, when it gets into the 20s up there, there's no insulation or nothing. You got to keep a fire going to keep you warm. So anyways, we started cutting firewood and stuff like that. Like he taught me a lot of little skills and stuff, which my whole childhood growing up, that's all I did with my grandpa and my dad and stuff was cut firewood growing up, for the wintertime. So it kind of came naturally to me, but my buddy's dad, he was into like cutting little tiny branches and stuff like that. He was kind of a hippie. He didn't want to cut trees down and, and split the wood and stuff. It was mainly pruning. I think he was using me as child labor.
Yeah, probably. Yep.
But he's like, if you want to get your firewood, you got to prune up these branches and stuff. So anyways, I spent weeks and weeks, like in the fall, just cutting up dead branches and stuff like that, which it was a win-win. I got firewood and I helped my buddy's dad out too, so cleaning up his trees and stuff like that. But, yeah, and then that was my first winter. That was the winter of 2003. That was the first winter I ever stayed in a teepee before by myself. It was pretty interesting, but survived it, obviously.
You're still
Learned
here.
a lot of stuff. Yeah, that Greenfield Ranch, it was pretty cool. I learned a lot about like culture and stuff like that up there, and they had a ranch house up there that was, I guess it was built in 30s or 40s or something like that. It was a pretty good sized ranch house, and that's where all the, like I said before, this ranch was like 50,000 acres, and they had parceled it off. So I mean, if I was to guess, I mean there was probably like 1,000 people that lived up there, on all these parcels just split up. And there was 2 or 3 times a year they'd have these little get-togethers, Halloween parties, and it might be somebody's birthday or this or that. Like we had I think it was my 18th birthday up there. It was either my 18th or I think we had my 18th and my 19th birthday up there, but my 19th birthday was like awesome because like there was another family that lived up in Redwood Valley. They have a winery. I'm not going to say their name, but they're very well known. They had a winery up there. It's organic and biodynamic and stuff, but I was friends with some of those guys, and they brought some wine and stuff like that. And at the time, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband at the time when they were married, they're divorced now, but he worked for a brewery over there, which is no longer a brewery now. I'm not going to say the name, but
all anonymous here.
I used to get cases of beer and stuff like that, kegs and stuff like that. So it was, let's just say it was an awesome 19th birthday. I don't remember a lot of it. Let's just put that. But pretty sure that was my 19th birthday because my 18th birthday was pretty close to that. But there was just a lot more people at the next. I remember the next birthday. It was pretty cool. There was a local band.
How long were you up there? In Greenfield.
Off and on. I'd go up to my buddy's house. I mean, even when we were kids, I remember because I grew up with him for a long time. I'd go up there and stay the weekend or something with him, but living up there. So 2003 was the first winter or summer and winter I stayed up there by myself, like lived up in that teepee. And then I met a girl up there, and we started dating while I was still living in the teepee. She lived like on the ridge, the next ridge over with her parents. They had a 25-acre piece over there, but met her, started dating her. I dated her for I think a year or something like that, but I ended up moving in with her like within a few 2-3 months or something like that of dating. And they actually had it was like a gazebo, like picture a gazebo, but like it was screened in. And I don't know why the gazebo was there because there wasn't a hot tub in it or there was nothing in it. It was just like screened in gazebo.
Like a porch, basically? Or
yeah, but it was like
outside
on its own
section?
little, like in it, it was just like
yeah.
a 20-foot by 20-foot cement slab, but it had a gazebo, but it was screened in. There was no chairs or nothing. It was just kind of like, what the heck is this here for?
A pseudo greenery place.
It was just, there was nothing in it.
Weird.
It was beautiful, little. I think the person that lived there before had built it, and it was like handmade wood. And it was beautiful.
Dang.
But as I'm dating this girl, I'm like, hey, you think your dad will let me move into this gazebo? There was no wood stove or anything. It was just like an open thing. But we were going into the summertime. I was like, you think he'd let me move in this for the summertime? While we're dating and stuff, but.
They're like, who is this bum?
She's like, well, no, I was working and stuff, but
okay.
She asked her dad, and he was like, yeah, because I had already met her dad, he liked me and stuff, but she asked him, and he was like, yeah, he could move in for the, just for the summertime. just for the summertime, and yeah, so I moved in there and I started doing like a little work around that property, and I was working for a couple other guys on the ranch doing fencing and, just odd jobs here and there just for cash stuff. But I never left the ranch. Let's put it that way. Like,
wow,
rarely. Like, this was up just to get back. Like, Highway 101 is the highway that runs through the main highway that runs through Mendocino County there. I think I might have hit that like once a month, maybe, like just for going like I had to go get groceries or something like that, essentials. But anyways, so all the other time I was up there working with all those other people that own properties up there, herding their cows or weed eating or, this or that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I mean,
sounds like a young man's dream.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it was hard work.
Yeah,
it was very
sure.
hard work because obviously I didn't have utility bills, or I didn't have any bills really on it besides fuel and the fuel thing. That's another story.
Okay.
So on that same ranch, I met a guy that was making biodiesel. He had an old Dodge diesel. It was like a, I don't know, 94, 95 or something like that. And he drove by me. This is before I met him. He drove by me one day, and I was like, "That didn't smell like diesel. There's something weird there. It smelled kind of sweet, Like, was he cooking French fries or something?" And anyways, one of the ranch parties that we had up at that ranch house, I went up and introduced myself, and he's a super cool guy. And I asked him about I go, "Hey, you drove by the other day and your truck smelled different. The exhaust smelled different. Like, what's going on with that?" He's like, "Oh, well, I make biodiesel. I take vegetable oil and from the restaurants down in the town and filter it and process it and stuff." Anyways, I asked, this is at a party, so we're drinking beer and stuff like that. So I'm asking him more and more and more about it, and he goes, "Why don't you just come by tomorrow and I'll show you my setup or whatever." And so I came by the next day, and he has this like elaborate, it's ghetto, but it's elaborate ghetto, setup, these tanks and heaters and stuff like that. And he showed me how to make biodiesel. And I know on the last podcast, I kind of told you a little bit about that, but
that was fascinating to listen to, by the way. I was like,
yeah,
what? This is how you'd make it? Like, all this kind of stuff? So.
Yep. So I learned from this guy kind of how to make the basics of how to, you take the raw material, which is just used vegetable oil. They make French fries and chicken tenders and everything with. You take that and you filter all the crumbs and stuff out of it, and then you got to titrate it, which is testing. You're testing like how much catalyst you have to add to it. So you add a methanol and a catalyst. With the methanol is just a high alcohol, like a it's like they use it for racing fuel, but it's called methanol, not methamphetamine, but methanol. Okay, it's just a clear fuel. They use it for racing and stuff, but use that, and then you got to use a catalyst, which is like a caustic, and they were at the time they were using sodium hydroxide, which is. They use it for like drain cleaners and stuff like that. It's just a caustic soda. Well, by the time I moved away from there and moved into Capay and stuff like that, I started using potassium hydroxide, not sodium hydroxide. So potassium hydroxide, it's the same. I had to use a little bit more, just a tiny little bit more. But the byproduct or the waste product off of it, you could use it as a fertilizer and stuff like that. Like it wasn't a burden to get rid of. Like I could easily get rid of it. But anyways, yeah, that ranch, I learned how to make biodiesel. I met a guy that made beer. I learned how to do fencing and a bunch of different stuff up there. So you got any other questions about that ranch? I can go on forever.
Was this the wildcattin days?
I was wildcatting a little bit. If you want to call it.
You were the wanderer, as they say.
Yeah, I wandered. I never wore shoes.
Never?
No. from the time, I would say from the time I turned 18, I would say, I like never wore shoes or anything like that. I just walk around barefooted everywhere.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean.
That's dope.
Yeah, my feet were super, like I could walk
Super
anywhere.
tough, man.
Nowadays, I would try to walk out in the driveway and I'm like, ooh, ooh, like pussyfoot around. But yeah, that was back in the day, man.
I remember when I was little, we would walk barefoot everywhere on the farm.
Yeah.
Like just everywhere. We go down the lane, we'd go on for walks for exercise or whatever.
Yep.
We just go barefoot and then come back.
And one thing about
and
back
just do the
then,
farm.
as I can remember being barefooted all the time, like I always, like in the wintertime, I always wore sweaters and pants and stuff, but I was always barefoot. But I never remember getting sick. Like I never had a cold or nothing.
Really?
When I was barefoot. It was almost like, and nowadays I hear all these people talking about being grounded. You know, they ground themselves like barefooted. And stuff.
That's funny. I was just about to bring that up.
And now back then I didn't know anything about being grounded.
Yeah.
But like I hear about it nowadays, like it's a fad or something, but it's like people ground their beds and all the, but it's like, I think back then I was literally grounded to the earth.
Yeah.
And I never was sick ever.
Oh.
That's weird. Like
Something
I was
to it,
discharging, I don't know. Thinking about it
Yeah.
now. Back then I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I was just smoking weed and being stupid. You know, I was living my life. But
Yeah.
no, it was a good life. I would never want to go back to that life.
No.
Knowing what I know now, but
Yeah.
as a
You have
young
to upgrade,
adult,
you
it was
know?
I needed that as a young adult. Just that freedom and like experimenting and stuff like that. Like I didn't do a bunch of crazy stuff. I
No
did
meth.
a little. No, definitely. I've never done anything like that.
You're a good boy.
I did a little bit of stuff that grows from the earth. Let's
there
put
you
it
go.
that way.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Expanded my mind. Let's put it that way. But nothing crazy.
Never affected your aura.
No, my aura was great. My aura is still great. Shout out to all the kids nowadays. So.
Shout out to all the kids that have normalized that phrase. You know?
Yeah, but yeah, no, Greenville it was a chunk of my life that I don't regret, but I would never go back to. You know what I mean? Like I would never want to live that life again.
Like you appreciate that season.
I do appreciate it in that time.
In that time.
Yeah, it definitely.
And you also got taught by many different people who had different traits.
And they were most of those people who lived up there. I'm not gonna lie, most of them were. I mean, they were probably 50s, 60s,
Yeah, they're old,
70s.
yeah.
Some of them were in their 80s. I mean, but they were still working and doing their. They were working their land.
Yeah.
Working. I don't even want to call it working. They were helping
their
others.
livelihood.
Yeah.
They're out there.
But everybody helped everybody. Like one guy would have a tractor, another guy would have a horse, another guy would have a grader, another guy would have a truck, or you know what I mean? Like everybody helped them. If somebody needed something, they always would trade, or like somebody would grow, peaches and they canned it, or you know what I mean? Like if somebody would have bees, they'd have honey. Everybody had their place, and they all did their own thing. Everybody had gardens and stuff like that. So, but certain people grew certain things, and other people grew other things, and they would trade, and it was like a barter system up there. I mean, there really was no money up there.
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about living in a high trust society.
Yeah,
I wonder what change happened that made that go away. What made that high trust society go away? What group was brought in that drove out that high trust society?
You're talking about capitalism, David?
I was
I'm
trying to make a racist joke.
barter-
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
what group?
Well, like
even
bartering
with capitalism, though, like up
well,
there,
yeah, bartering's still a thing.
up there. I mean, even though it was bartering, there still was a little capitalistic.
Oh yeah.
Because like if a guy offered me a job to do a fence for him, or say weed eating, for instance, like I use my own weed eater and gas and everything and my labor, but say it was, an eighth of an acre or something on a side of a hill, he would say, what is it worth to you? And I would say, well, what do you got? You know what I mean? Like, and if you got 5 jars of honey, and back then I was smoking weed, which I'm not anymore. But like back then it'd be like, hey, I got an ounce of weed, 5 jars of honey, and a 6-pack of beer. I'm like,
there
done.
You go. There you go.
And to me, it was worth it to me. To him, it was probably well worth it to him, because it was stuff that he already had. but I felt like I was coming out ahead, you know. So that was still a capitalistic mindset. Like, I'm coming out ahead, man.
Yeah, it's all based on, you know, individual self-interest.
Sure, yeah.
There's nothing coerced about it.
No, like if you would have offered me, you know, an apple pie or something like that, I'd been like, I don't really like apple pie, you know. I think it's worth 3 apple pies, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But,
maybe a bag of sugar along with that, you know.
Yeah. But they
Something
knew
to make it worth it.
they knew what I liked, you know. Everybody up there.
And you got
liked
to
that.
know everybody too.
Oh yeah. There was still, like I said, this was 50,000 acre ranch.
God,
and you know, there was a couple main roads that went through, and then, you know, there was just little chicken foot roads that come off of everywhere. And there was people I never met, and I lived up there. I was going up there for years.
Wow.
And there were still people I'd never met because they were little hermits, you know, they lived their own life. And, you know, there was a couple people, there was one guy in particular I met, I think it was like 3 years after I started coming up there. I don't know if I was living up there yet, but I think I was coming up there with my buddy, and his parents went over there to their place to have dinner. And, you know, of course I was staying with them, or I was up there for the weekend. So me and him were with them. And I remember they had this greenhouse, and it had like these sweet corn plants in it, but they were only like 4-foot little corn plants, but they had the biggest cobs I've ever seen on them.
Huh.
And I'm like, just me knowing sweet corn, you know, when I was a kid, I was like, I've never seen that before. Like, 'cause my dad always had gardens, and his sweet corn was like 6 or 8 feet tall, and the cobs were like the same size as you buy in the store. But it was like, I've never seen this corn before. So I had questioned the guy. I'm like, what's up with the corn out there? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I've never seen a corn plant that short with that big of cobs on it. He's like, oh, I've been breeding it for years, you know, and this and that. And it's like, oh, okay. So he came up with his own variety of corn that was this super short, stocky corn plant, but it had this huge, like, I mean, it was the biggest corn cob you've ever seen.
Dang.
Yeah, it was just like little things like that. I remember little things like that, you know, like what the heck? Of course, I remember other types of plants up there too that were gigantic and stocky, but just little stuff like that. The first time I ever tried stevia.
Oh yeah.
If you've ever heard of stevia, this guy had a garden up. I mean, huge. I mean, it was like 1 acre garden, because they lived off the land. They were, a lot of people up there were vegetarians. Some of them weren't. Some of them grew their own, you know, or raised their own pigs and cows and stuff like that, turkeys and chickens, everything. But this one guy, this was before vegans were a thing, but he was a vegetarian. He still ate eggs and stuff, I guess, and fish. But he had this huge 1 acre garden. And there was this plant. He goes, hey, I was up there for something. I don't remember what it was, but he goes, hey, go take a leaf off of that little plant and just kind of nibble on it. And I'm like, well, wait. What is it? What kind of plant is this? Am I going to freak out? And he's like, no. He's like, I guarantee it's the sweetest thing you've ever tried. And I'm like, sweeter than honey? And he's all, yeah. And so I went and took a little piece, and I nibbled on it. And sure enough, it was the sweetest thing I've ever had. It was literally like a spoonful of sugar in my mouth. And I'm like, what is this? And he's all, oh, it's called stevia. First time I've ever heard of that word before, stevia. Well, now it's like in grocery stores and, you know.
Yeah, sugar-free stuff, all that.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
but it's the sweetest thing I've ever had, you know. The leaf is, but yeah. And then there was this other one, and he's like, try that. And I chewed it, and my face went numb. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, once you paused there and you started
Cocaine,
on that, I'm like, wait a second, where's this going?
No.
Then there was this other leaf, and I nibbled on that, and I had so much energy.
It's so much energy.
I went for 3 days straight without sleeping.
Oh, man.
Well, speaking of sleeping and stuff, you just stayed in that teepee, and then you moved into like that greenhouse.
That was a summer and a winter. It was the summer and winter of 2003, I believe. Yeah, because I graduated in June, but I had already been staying up there that summer. Like, and then it was in the winter of 2003, and I think it may have been in the spring and into the summer of 2024.
2004
or 2004. Yeah. I don't know why I keep saying
2020.
So long. Yeah.
So long ago.
24 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you left there after that winter, I'm guessing, and you went back to what, Capay or?
No,
Chico,
we didn't move to. So my parents lived in Redwood Valley, or they did. They don't live there anymore. But at that time, that we moved into Redwood Valley when I was in 6th grade, I think. So yeah, so this was like towards just before I graduated high school. Like I said, for years I'd been going up to this friend's house for years because his mom and my mom were pretty good friends. But after when I moved up there, it was 2003. And then I believe it was the summer of 2024 is when I met that other girl and dated her for a little while. Obviously it didn't work out. But a little Filipino girl. But it's pretty cool. It was a good experience, I would say.
Anything crazy ever happened in there? Or was it just always?
Oh, lots of crazy stuff.
Lots of crazy. Any ghost stories from that time? Or do you have any ghost stories from now? Or
I don't know about ghost stories. Yeah. I mean, maybe in the the ranch house that was up there.
Ranch house.
That ranch house I told you about. It was like that main up on the ranch. This house that they called it the ranch house. It was built, I think it was like the 30s or 40s they built it. The original guy that owned
that 50,
the place,
000,
the 50,000.
Yeah.
He had this ranch house built before he died or something, and before it was all split up. That was the main house he lived in, I think, like when he was super old. And I think it was after he died is when his kids like sublet it or whatever you call it, like subdivided it, and it all got split up into all these different parcels. But there's been a couple times when I was up there, and of course I was drinking and, partaking in other things. But there was times where there was, like, because nobody lived in that ranch house. It was just like a community thing. So it's like when there wasn't a party going on or anything, during the day, like the normal week or whatever, nobody was in there.
Oh, so they would host the parties there.
Yeah, like it was just an empty place. There was couches and like a piano and stuff like that. It was a beautiful place. But during the week and when there wasn't parties going on, it was empty. And there was a ranch caretaker that lived up there, but he lived up in this little cabin, like it was way up the hill. I mean, I don't even think you could see the ranch house from where he lived. And anyways, there was a couple times I went there, like my girlfriend at the time was still going to school and stuff like that. So like she would go off to school, like to wherever, and I didn't have work or something, or it would be before work or after work. I'd go up there and just hike up there because it was like maybe a quarter mile from my house. It wasn't that far. I'd hike up there barefooted and just be up there alone. And at the time, I didn't think of it at the time, but nowadays I'm just like, I was just spending time with God. That's what it was. But at the time, I was just doing my thing, going to getting stoned and being in the zone. I was giving off aura. But
just for yourself.
Yeah, it was my alone time kind of thing. Yeah. But I'd go up there and I'd sit and I'd play with the piano a little bit, or I'd walk around. They had an outhouse out there that this other guy, I could go off on that thing too, but this outhouse, this guy had he was doing like the red worm thing where he'd put a barrel in it.
Yeah.
Put the barrel, a little bit of soil, some sawdust, and he put red worms in there. So like it would compost your poo, and then he would take those barrels and let them age for like a year or two. And then he'd go out and use them. Anyways, there was that thing. And then there was like a hot tub that was all homemade and it was wood fired and stuff like that. I'd just kind of walk around and just peck around. And, but there was a time a couple times I'd been in that ranch house by myself, and when you walk in old places like that, it makes creaks and stuff like that. Well, I'd be sitting there, not moving, and there'd be like the sound of footsteps, like creak, creak, creak. And of course I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's just the mountains moving a little bit, is shifting, because all this whole place is on a mountain. And, I'm telling myself that, but yeah, as an adult, I'm like, oh, there's totally something in there, because it literally sounded like something walking, like creak, creak, creak. You couldn't hear footsteps, but you could hear the boards creaking, getting closer to you, to me.
Whoa.
So I don't know. That's probably the only ghost story I could think of off the top of my head up there. I had seen some weird stuff out in the woods up there, you know.
Any Bigfoots?
When I was partaking on some earthly grown
things. Yeah.
But it was just like, you think you see something and you look and there's nothing there.
Double take.
And then you still stare for 10 minutes. You stand there just to make sure and there's nothing there.
And to gather your thoughts.
It was probably a bird or something, you know, flying by. But yeah.
Was this place like all grass or trees or both?
Oh, it was the most beautiful ranch I've ever seen. It was, I mean, if you could picture, it was all mountainous. So there's hills and mountains. It was very rare to get a flat spot up there, like an actual, like we have here in the valley.
Uh-huh.
But there was a couple, you know, like maybe a quarter acre would be flat enough to do a garden or something. But yeah, most of it was all on the mountains. A lot of trees. There was, you know, Doug fir. One of the biggest Doug firs I've ever seen was up there in my life. And I've been all around the mountains around here too. But one of the biggest Doug firs, like us three couldn't put our hands around it. It was that big. Whoa. And there was redwoods up there. Another cool thing about where I lived, there was a creek that was like, I don't know, if I threw a rock from my property, it would hit the creek. Let's just put it that way. It was that close. And in the summertime, I'd walk the creek because it was dry. Like there were still springs and stuff that would release water, but it wasn't like a flowing creek. But I still remember walking through that creek bed in the summertime, you know, and it's super quiet. Like you can't hear a car. There's no, every once in a while if an airplane flew over, but it was super quiet. You could hear your heartbeat, you know, it was that quiet. But I heard one time, it was one of the first times I ever walked through the creek bed, and I was walking by this redwood grove that was growing in the creek bed, and I heard something weird sounding. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I got closer and closer, and I'm like, oh, it's actually the redwood trees were gurgling, like they were like, I don't even know the word, transpiring or something, but they were consuming water through their roots, and you could like hear it flowing through them. Like it almost had a
creaking noise, or
no, it was almost like a flowing noise. Like you can hear the water flowing through the trees. And I was totally sober at this time.
Yeah.
And it was a legit sound, but it was the sound of almost like you could hear the water flowing through the tree, like processing through the tree.
Wow.
And these were huge redwoods. I mean, it was the coolest thing I've ever, and I'm like,
That's
what
cool.
the heck? I still tell people that nowadays. I'm like, yeah, the
trees talk.
You can hear redwoods, especially if they're in a creek or near water. Yeah. You could hear them processing water, like you know they're processing it. I don't know another word for it, but they're sucking it up through their roots and transpiring it through their leaves. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was beautiful up there. Like I said, I loved it at the time, but I would never go back to that life.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for a hike or something, because I've seen the most exotic mushrooms up there growing, things you didn't want to touch. They were probably poisonous.
Probably poison. Yeah.
To the point where like you kick them and they just turn like purplish red.
Whoa!
Like when they get bruised, like right away.
Dang.
You know, some of the just most exotic looking things, and yeah. I mean, there's things I probably forgot, but I tried to forget. But
well,
yeah.
It's like this is like during your establishment years as an adult, basically.
Yeah,
like you're 18,
pretty much.
And then
it was late childhood, 19, early adulthood,
and then 19 and a half, it was kind of over for that season.
Pretty much, yeah. Because I met. So I lived up there until 2006.
Oh wow.
I think it was the winter of 2000, and it was. I want to say I left because it was like winter of 2005, but the winter goes into 2006, and I feel like I left in January. I think it was January, February of 2006, and then I moved up to Oregon. Another buddy of mine was going to Oregon State up there. Go Ducks! But he was going to school up there, and he was like, hey, you want to go up with me? Because I was riding BMX and stuff like that, still skateboarding a little bit. And I was ready for an adventure. Me and my girlfriend at the time weren't doing good, and like there was just I don't even want to get into that. It was just a bunch of it was drama, yeah. And I didn't want that drama, so I was like, yeah, I'm down. So I literally filled a backpack with what I had, and the money I had, the stuff I needed, and
a little bit of honey.
I didn't have any honey.
No,
well, it was a different kind of honey.
The stevia kind.
But yeah, no, I just filled a backpack. He picked me up, and we literally drove to Eugene, Oregon, and with my bike and my backpack on my back and clothes on my back. And I had some money, some cash, stuff like that. But so I think I stayed up there from I want to say it was like late January. I feel like it was like maybe March or April or something, because like it was a few months and I hated it up there. It was rained all the time. This was Eugene and Oregon in wintertime. And a dude that likes to go outside, likes to ride his bike and stuff, if it's raining all the time, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And so anyways, my sister at the time, I talked to her all the time, and she was just like, you want me to come pick you up? And I'm like, yes, please come pick me up. Because I didn't drive it, I had my driver's license. I just didn't have a car. And I was like, yes, please come pick me up. So her and her boyfriend at the time drove all the way from like Redwood Valley all the way up to Oregon. Gosh. I mean, you're talking
Eugene,
in the wintertime too.
Yeah, in the wintertime. And Eugene, Oregon's what part of Oregon? North, south, middle?
It's, let's just put it this way. I think it was like a 7-hour drive or something like that.
Okay. So yeah.
Up there, right?
It would be up there, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like 7 hours up there, right? Well, by the time they got up to pick me up,
a long drive.
A winter storm had came through. So by the time they got to me, this winter storm had was full effect. Well, they picked me up, me and another buddy of mine that came back down with me.
Yeah, want to go back with
we were driving back down. Well, by the time we got to the California border, this storm, it was like blizzarding. Like it was one of those, heavy storms. Well, they closed I-5 and stuff like that. So we had to end up going, I think it was Highway 3. We had to go to like Hay Fork and cut over. God. Our that 7-hour drive, it turned
11 hour.
It turned, it was way more than that. Yeah. It turned into a long drive. But my sister still to this day is like, I'm glad I went and picked you up. And like, we have a good relationship, but, I'm just so glad I didn't stay up there. Mm. Yeah. I love Oregon to this day. I like going up there in the summertime, but I don't like going in the wintertime. Mm. It's just, you never see the sun, and this California boy needs sun. So.
And he needs to work on his farmer's tan,
Yeah, I know exactly. I'm a totally different person nowadays than I used to be, though.
So after you came down south of the border on Oregon, you went back to doing what? Like Redwood Valley and all that
stuff? Yeah. So when my sister picked me up, I got back to Redwood Valley. Because at the time, so she had her first kid. And I think he was only I feel like he was only like 5 or something like that. So at the time, my sister and her kid's dad had just broken up. Like a little bit before that. Well, by that time, my sister had a new boyfriend by then, but she was living with my parents. And so, yeah, when we got back, we went back to my parents' house in Redwood Valley. My parents were really welcoming and stuff like that. They want us to come in. And I think I was there so by that time, yeah, it was 2000 it was into 2006. And I feel like it was March or April, one or the other, going into spring. And yeah, that's where I was there for a while, few weeks. I think I was there for like 2 or 3 weeks. And that was when MySpace first came out, that before Facebook. Mm-hmm. And that's where, one of my friends was like, yeah, you should get MySpace. And I'm like, what is MySpace? Oh, it's this cool new thing, this whole social media. And anyway, so I got a MySpace page, and it was like within a week of having MySpace, this chick from Cloverdale, which is
man, watch out, people from Cloverdale.
Yeah, it's the next county down. It's in Sonoma County. This chick from Cloverdale messages me, how you doing? That's what the text wrote, or the message wrote. How you doing? And so I like clicked on it, and it shows her profile picture. Well, it's this chick standing with like 2 kids, and I'm like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. And then she messaged me, or we messaged. I don't really remember. It was a long time ago, but long story short, she's my wife now. So and she never had 2 kids. It was her cousin or her nephews. So we have 2 kids, but yeah, there's a lot to that story too. But yep. And so now living in Capay and just living life, living the dream.
So the wildcattin days, they were.
I still wildcat every once in a while, but not in a bad way.
No.
Go
barefooting though.
Yeah, I barefoot a little bit.
Full Huck Finn, freebooting.
There's too many goat heads around here.
yeah. For here, it's like you can't get away with
See, we didn't have goat heads up on the ranch.
Really?
In Rabbit Valley, no.
Any bears?
There was star thistles up there, but they, oh yeah, there was bears. There was. Yeah.
Any grizzly bears?
I actually, a couple of those hikes I went on, I seen mountain lions too.
Oh shoot.
But they wouldn't bother me.
Really?
They weren't like stalking me or anything.
Yeah.
It's like I come around a corner and they were there, and they were like, I caught them off guard, and they were like, oh,
they're like, oh shoot.
So they
A
skedaddled.
Homo sapien, get me out of here.
That dude has a weird aura. But
I feel like the title of this podcast is going to have to do something with aura.
I was
Aura.
just thinking the same thing.
He's got a weird aura.
He's got a weird aura. Yeah.
Other than that, though, I mean,
the aura is strong with this one.
with this one. Yeah, nowadays, I mean, as obviously I'll be 40 next month. It's June now. I'll be 40 in July, late July, but
isn't that
totally
a brand
different
of
person.
tortilla chips? Late July.
Late July, it is, yeah, and they're really good too. They have sesame
Waditos.
seeds.
Wait,
yeah.
What are you referencing? What do you? I don't get it.
The brand of tortilla chips called Late
they're
July.
really good.
There's a brand of tortillas called that?
Yeah,
Tortilla chips.
Oh, I need to eat these chips.
they're delicious, and they have like a lime one.
Oh shoot. Okay.
But anyways, yeah, yeah. I'm an old guy now, so.
Yeah. Well,
wildcatting to me is when I'm driving in the tractor and I'm trying to make a straight line, I'll do a squiggly line just to be a naughty boy. No, I'm just
that
kidding.
way the next guy who's got a harvest set is going to have to do that.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, we I think we covered this on our last podcast, but just have our little family business at our house, a little wood mill, and then do a little farming on the side.
Yeah. That's cool.
No, nothing crazy.
I don't know. Where are you guys feeling about where to go from here? I feel like there's something else to say.
What is on your mind, Jake?
What's on my mind? Well, it's kind of what I brought up earlier with the kids.
Yeah.
Them dang kids is what I wrote in the doc before I deleted it.
Them dang
kids, because I see the generation we have.
Oh yeah.
And I was playing Minecraft with them and whatnot. But I see like Wesley's a good example in a positive way. I saw him as a little kid, and now he's almost an adult. I think he's 16. Yeah, he just turned 16.
No, him and
Lorna just turned 16.
No, they're younger than Jarrett. Jarrett's not even 16.
Oh
yet.
shoot, no, 15.
They just
Blaine's 16.
Blaine's 16.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Or
I get it all
16 or 17. I can't remember.
Yeah, but
Blaine will be 17, I think.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah. They're young
yeah.
adults. Let's put it that way.
young kids, and they're teenagers, and I see them when they were little kids, and I remember. It's funny because, I'm not going to say their last name for the sake of anonymity, but anyway, their dad comes
It rhymes with no.
they're related to Santa Claus.
That's
my God.
But anyway, their dad's
Uncle
been
Chris,
on the show, but anyway, I remember meeting them for the first time, and as this was before God, how old was I? I was like probably 15 when I met them, and they were really little. They moved back down here. And this was an example of, kids where they're just the best dang kids some of the best dang people I've ever met. And when I met them we had a Halloween party every year at my place, or at my parents' houses. And they came and, these people are kind of cool, whatever, they're cool. I don't know them very well. But then, you're fine. But then, when it was time to clean up, like, we were playing with toys or whatever, just taking care of them. And then, we got to go, kids, time to go. Immediately, without being prompted, they started picking things up and cleaning up without being told to. It was just second nature or whatever.
How many times did you hit them, Jake? No, I'm just kidding.
But like,
No, they're all they're always
I remember
pretty good.
seeing that and I was like, man, these people are awesome.
Yeah, we used to have them over a lot. They were good kids.
And I remember just, throughout the years you meet people like that and not so good kids too, kids that you got to work on a little bit, and just tell them what's for.
The kids
Yeah.
that you have to beat a little bit.
Yeah, you got to beat into some, beat up a little bit, and but
Just
I don't know, it's
kidding.
been on my mind with that whole Minecraft server, and it's like you see them now and they're great people. They're great 15-year-old people or whatever, and I'm just excited to see
If you could even call 15-year-olds people.
Yeah, but then
What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people? But then, like,
They have a lot smarter things to say to us
yeah, it's like it's weird,
in a not a good
and then
way.
and also like Jarrett's a good example too. Like I remember meeting him at Josh's birthday party at Lee and Sue's, and he was like 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's a picture that my mom has of Josh. Like they were trying to shoot something with like a plastic bow and arrow or something, and Thad's helping Josh, and Sarah's there helping Jarrett. And I remember seeing that photo like 2 years ago, and I said, "Oh, that's JJ, your other kid." And I was like, "Oh no, that's Jarrett."
Yeah, they look a lot.
And I was like,
when they're-
"Whoa!" So it's like I don't know. It's just been on my mind, kids, and like them growing up. And me and David actually talked about this yesterday with Micah. Like I said, "Yeah, he's 18 now." And you
I
said-
still remember
and
when they were little.
And,
Yeah.
and David freaked out in front of me. He's like, "What? What do you mean he's 18? No way! He's like 15 or something." I don't know.
No, graduated
No,
high
he's just
school.
graduated high school last week.
And
or
his
something.
brother's right behind him.
Yep. Yeah, his brother's right behind him and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's like you also invest in these people's lives and you see how far they've come. And me and Micah were actually talking about this last night on the server. Like he has an offer to do a paid thing or an offer of some kind of discount for like a heavy equipment like class and program.
Yeah, I think
I
every
said-
kid should take that.
Yeah, and I said, dude-
especially if they play video games.
Yep.
I mean, you sit in an excavator.
Yeah, dude.
It's like a video game, but
Yeah.
you're getting paid
You're
lots
getting
of money.
Paid
yeah.
lots of money.
and you get
some
to
of the-
move dirt.
and you get to move dirt, which is always fun. And so I told him, I said, dude, go do it. And then I started talking about like my experience on the fires and just learning how to drive the water truck and working a couple shifts that I did. And I said, it's kind of daunting at first, depending on what equipment you're on. But once you get used to it, it's like,
Yeah, once you understand it, it's easy.
It's pretty easy, and it makes your job easier once you understand it and just takes a little time. And then
Yeah.
you might like doing it, and it's also good money, and it might be easy work if you get used to it,
Yep.
So I don't know. It's just, that's what's been on my mind and seeing all these kids grow up around me and where they're headed, and thinking about when I was their age and what I was doing. And, I was just a weird autistic kid that just had no friends, Well, I had friends, like 3 specific friends, and it's funny because I don't talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
They either moved away or went to a different state or something like that. So
It's funny. I was the same way. I technically.
you were autistic?
I technically.
That aura did something.
So this was before the whole ADHD thing was a thing. I would say I was probably one of the first kids that was diagnosed with ADD.
Whoa.
But it was ADHD, but they did all these tests and all this stuff
Dang,
on me.
really?
Anyways, yeah, and they're like, well, your kid's just hyper, and it's like, and they wanted to put me on Ritalin. That was
Oh, shoot,
that was
yeah.
before, I don't know what the other ones are called.
Yeah, I don't
but,
remember. I don't know. Yeah.
But it was Ritalin. Was
I don't know
like
the names of the drugs, but I know the effects of the drugs. I've seen.
Yeah,
them.
there's another one too. The name is slipping my mind, but Ritalin was like the big one,
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's like, I'm not putting my kid on that. And I still
Good
remember,
mama.
I was in like 2nd grade. I still remember my mom making coffee for me, like a thermos of coffee with sugar and creamer or whatever. And anytime I started getting hyper, I remember the teacher would go,
Get
like
your
not
coffee.
make a ruckus or anything, but she'd go, "Oh, come over here," and then she'd pour me a little coffee. And it was like taking Ritalin, but it was caffeine instead of
It was the opposite effect.
methamphetamine.
It was the lighter effect.
But I still remember that in like 2nd grade. It was pretty funny. Yeah, things were awesome back in the 90s. Get to sip a cappuccino in 2nd grade, with my pinky up. No,
Oh man.
Anyways.
But, anyways, yeah. But I don't know. It's just something that's been on my mind, and I don't know. Just
It's a whole new generation, man.
Yeah, it's a whole new generation. And then this year, the next gen, in quotes, is Generation Beta, which what a great name
that
to have.
sounds weak.
Sounds weak.
Yeah.
Sounds retarded to me. You went from alpha to beta. Wow, what an upgrade.
What's the next generation going to be? Generation retarded.
Well, whatever C, what's C going to be called?
The third letter is gamma.
Oh, is it an alphabetical
It's
thing?
an alphabetical thing.
It's
So we
Greek
had Z.
Greek alphabet.
Oh, is it Greek?
Oh.
So A, B, and then what's
I never
next?
knew how they did that.
Well, the names of the generations, I'll say right now, I think all generation breakdowns are all bullshit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
But
because there's so many different
there's so many
generations.
different-
But anyway, the names of the generations have been up to this point something like that sort of defines that generation, heavy air quotes.
Ritalin.
But so you had you had millennials, you had Gen Z, and then I guess at some point
Alpha.
somebody decided that, since we've had Gen Z, why not just start over with Gen Alpha?
Yeah. And they're definitely not alphas.
So
No.
Maybe some of them.
Yeah, maybe some of them. Yeah.
So yeah, then
There's more
I guess,
betas that are millennials.
I guess after somebody had the bright idea of just starting the alphabet over, people latched onto it. It's like, sure, yeah, let's just keep it going, alpha, beta, and then
and then gamma, huh?
Yeah, that if it does go with the Greek alphabet, then the next one will be gamma.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and they, in quotes, whatever society or organization runs this. It's like Gamma will start in 2036 or 38 or whatever.
Oh, yeah. We won't be here.
Well, we won't be here.
Well, the asteroid's going to hit in
the
2032.
radiation's going to hit, the radiation from the asteroid and the nuke's going to go off and Generation Gamma. There you go.
Jesus is coming back.
Lizard
coming back,
people.
There you go. But,
we will definitely have to do a conspiracy theorist
we gotta.
podcast.
We gotta.
Maybe in a
be
couple
fun.
months. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe get Nick and
I gotta
you on.
prepare my. Yeah,
That'd be
more the merrier.
Yeah, the more the merrier. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
How
But
many mics do you got?
we got 4, or we technically have 5 right now.
But
4 would be probably the limit.
We have the maximum amount of inputs that this thing has is 4.
Yeah.
So times 2, you put 2 people on each one. That's
Nah,
8
it doesn't
people,
work
bro.
like that.
8 people.
I mean, technically we could do it, but we would have to
Technically.
buy another unit for that
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen anytime soon.
No. Keep it to 4 for now.
4's that's a crowd.
Yeah,
You know what? Like, off the record, maybe.
Yeah. On background.
On gang, no cap.
I've heard that. I've heard through the grapevine that Heather is actually really interested in conspiracies.
Oh.
So maybe we'll get her in on it. Maybe.
You might hear some conspiracy you've never heard of.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Lizard people.
Yeah, she's gonna talk about lizard people,
I wonder what she's knows that we don't.
Yeah, what do you know, Heather?
Yeah.
Well, I look at my
She
message-
works in the educational system.
Yeah, she works in the educational
She's got
system.
some inside knowledge. She has to, right?
That's right.
What are those kids doing?
Preschoolers.
Yeah, what are those
She
kids
knows exactly what they're indoctrinating our children with.
She gives them a little extra goldfish. What do you know, little
What do
kids?
you know, kids?
Which
What do you know?
Tell me your
really
info.
sad thing is what they're indoctrinating our kids with is not a conspiracy. It's already in plain sight.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
already
the
in plain
sad
sight.
thing about
Yeah,
it.
totally.
It's not a conspiracy. We know exactly what they're indoctrinating our kids
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
What Norm Macdonald would call what commie bullshit gobbledygook. Yeah.
What I love about that quote is he said that literally like a few months before he died. And it was when he was on the Hollywood Walk of Fame or something kind of show that he hosted and they offered him to host. And he just said whatever he wanted. He didn't care whatever they parameters they put on him. He just said,
Yeah, what's the
whatever.
worst that happens, right?
Yeah. And so he's like, I'm just never going to work. I never get this opportunity and I'm
Yeah.
never probably going to get it again. So
No.
I'm just going to be myself and say, all the kind of stuff. So
It's like when he got
love Norm.
fired off of SNL
Yep.
because they're like, cool it with the O.J. Simpson jokes.
Yeah.
And then he went hard on the O.J. Simpson jokes.
Yeah, you take something away from somebody, they're going to want to do it more.
yeah.
That movie, Dirty Work, did you guys ever watch that movie?
No, I've never seen
Oh,
it.
that's a classic. You guys got to watch it.
Dirty words.
I think Dirty Work. It
Oh,
was
Work.
one of the.
Okay.
I think it was one of the first movies he made. It was with that other guy. I can't remember his name now.
wasn't he in a movie with Johnny Knoxville or something?
It might have been in the later on maybe, but this one was Dirty Work. Yeah, it's good. It's a classic. Classic Norm Macdonald.
You ever seen The Insider, Justin,
I don't know.
with Russell Crowe and Al
The
Pacino?
Insider
Yeah.
doesn't ring a bell. No.
Oh, so Heat.
Yeah.
So the
Robert
same
De
guy
Niro and
that
all-
so
yeah.
the same director did The Insider,
Okay.
and it
Heat was
follows.
a good one,
Yeah, Heat's great, and this follow up involves Russell Crowe playing a doctor, a pharmacist, scientist, and he basically exposes the pharmaceutical companies of the drugs and what they're putting in the drugs.
Okay.
And all the deals and the corruption, and then they go after him for that when he
Kind of like
exposes
The
it.
Fugitive.
No, because I get what you're saying, but anyway, they go after him, and then it involves the police, and there's a whole line of court cases that come up because of it, and they go after him. They send like people to assassinate him and everything from what he knows. It's
Because
and
he's
Al Pac-
calling out the.
Yep, and
That
then Al
actually sounds like
Pacino-
real life.
Yeah, and then Al Pacino exactly, and then Al Pacino is the cop that kind of follows his case and kind of protects him and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you find out the real meaning of the name of the movie, The Insider. It's more
Ah.
than just one.
Off the watch. Is that a 90s one?
Yeah, it was 90. It was right before he did Gladiator. Russell Crowe did Gladiator.
Okay.
So it was
I'll have to
99,
watch
I
that
think.
one. The Insider. Yeah.
I have
never
it
heard
if you
of
want
it.
to borrow it. It's really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a Blu-ray player or anything like that.
Blu-ray. What's that?
Yeah, do you have a DVD player?
Totally.
Physical media.
Physical
Who buys
media.
physical media
I think
anymore?
the PS4 plays Blu-ray.
Yep, you got it. So if you
Yeah.
have that, you can watch it.
Yeah,
we got
I
a
mean,
PS4.
you would hope it would, considering the same company made both things.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sony.
Sony. Yeah.
Oh man, like
Yeah.
Microsoft with their HD DVD that you had to buy a separate add-on for the Xbox 360 in order to be able to play them on there.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
pretty.
man, yeah, that's weird.
Terrible. Terrible.
Terrible. If you ever find one, do you want to track down an HD DVD player? And
I remember when those
I
first
think
came out.
RV was an HD DVD. That's the only movie I can think of right
Yeah,
now.
I'll track down
Oh
some
yeah.
HD
Are you there yet? Yeah,
DVDs.
we can try to find that.
Are
know?
you there yet?
Yeah, The Matrix
track down
2.
some HD DVDs and
Matrix Reloaded's probably on there.
I'll rip them on my HD DVD player and then transfer them to my Zune.
Oh yeah.
Zune.
Yeah, Zune.
I remember when the Blu-rays came out. That was like a hot thing for about a month. Yeah.
Something I was going to ask you, did you have any like CDs or something to pass the time while you were up there, like as a side little thing?
We
or-
did.
While you were in Greenfield?
Yeah. So
Because I'm like, is he like listening to like...
I was
Music or
was
something?
big into the Gorillas. Remember the Gorillas?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of people
Do you
never heard
remember
of
the
them.
Gorillas? They're still relevant
Yeah.
somewhat.
I was big into them. I played the guitar and stuff like that up there, but yeah, I was into a lot of stuff, a lot of music, a lot of
There's all kinds
reggae
of
music at the time.
Reggae music.
Yeah,
There
there
were
was.
Young and Free or something?
It was there was it was a lot of local reggae music. There was like two or three bands that were up there
Oh, dang.
on the ranch.
Whoa.
One of them, I don't even know if they're a band anymore, Redbud. They were like a reggae folk type music.
Oh, okay.
And actually my buddy that I was living with at the time before I actually moved up there, when we were like 15 or 16 up there, we went to a ranch party or whatever, and the drummer, like something happened, he got a flat tire or something like that. Like he lived down in town and was going to come up. Well, he got a flat tire or something like that. So like they were like, we don't have a drummer. And my buddy played the drums at the time and they knew it. So it was like a 15-year-old kid. They're like, hey, you want to come play the drums for us? He's like, no. And they're like, yeah, come on. So they like peer pressured him in there. And so he was just like, choo, 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 choo. Like it was, I still remember it was like the lamest concert ever. Like, like the guitars, the bass, everything, the singing sounded awesome, but like the drums just sucked. And I made it known. I was like, you suck.
Oh, you
That's
suck.
what friends do, right?
That's my friend up
Yeah.
there. He's
You
terrible.
suck.
This is his first night tonight, you know?
It was awesome, though.
Yeah.
Well,
Before we go, let's end it here, but I do want to ask you, what's your your salvation story? Because we kind of heard about this wildcat thing. And then you met Sarah, and then what led from there to now, like the God connection? Basically.
there was a lot of things leading, like the last podcast I had mentioned the whole I don't know if whoever's listening, if you go back and listen to that last podcast, that time I was kind of out wildcatting and met this girl, and like I went back to her place, but it turned out it was a awkward, weird situation, and her roommate was this old guy that actually owned the place, but kicked me and this other guy out, and it was pouring down rain. We were on the wrong side of town, and across the street was like down the road was like a trailer park thing, or it wasn't a trailer park. It was like a prefab. They made these manufactured homes, and how there was like this one light on, and like there was lots of them in there, and this one where the light was on, the door was open, and it was just like, that was kind of the first, like, at the time I didn't see it, but it was like at the time it was like, oh, this is my refuge, you know, like because it was pouring down rain. And anyways, that was kind of the first, like, oh God, you really are there. Because I kind of prayed in my head. I'm like, God, please, like, help me in this situation, but like without praying that, you know, it was just subconsciously. But you know, years and years later, like, it was just realizing that God is everywhere, and he is love, and every little, like, even if I make mistakes or whatever, like, he's there. And yeah, I mean, salvation, it's kind of like, yeah, it kind of like organically happened. It wasn't like I just got baptized and I'm a new person, you know what I mean? Like, because like I haven't been baptized. I was baptized when I think I was in preschool, as far back as I can remember. I don't remember that, but I think I was baptized in preschool, but I don't ever remember being baptized as an adult. And I'm probably to that point now where I need to be, like I want to be. But I think it just organically happened over time, where I just am to the point now where I'm just like, yeah, God's totally real, you know?
It was kind of like basically sanctification is what you're talking about, where it's like a lifelong process, basically. Yeah.
Like I like growing up when I was a kid, there was times where it was just like things happened, or there was times where it's just like you think back and it's like, I never went a day without eating, you know what I mean? Like, or I never went a day without sleeping somewhere indoors, you know what I mean? Like, I never was, like, there was times where I was technically homeless.
Yeah.
I didn't own my own home, you know, I was homeless, but I wasn't homeless, you know what I mean? Like, I always had a place to stay. I mean, a teepee, it's not a home, but it's, you know, places like that. But
a prefab home just for a night.
Just for a night, and it sheltered me from that storm. And then, like the next morning, it was blue sky, beautiful. You know, I had to walk 2 miles or whatever to get back to where I was going. But it was just like, I was in flip flops and stuff. But it was just like the whole walk. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm so upset. But it was just like, wow. Like at the time, thinking back, it wasn't like I wasn't praising the whole way. But I was, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, thank you, God, blah, 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 like the crazy guy on the corner, you know. But I was just like, I was in my mind, I'm like, thank you, like, thank you, God, or the creator, or whoever's out there. Thank you for, you know, it's hard to explain, but.
Yeah, I remember when I was listening to that story, I totally forgot about it until last night when I heard it again. And what came to my mind was, I bet you had either your parents or your grandparents or your great-grandparents prayed over you for whether they met you or they didn't meet you. it seems like those prayers carried on and they kind of just took care of you.
Yeah, I think it was my mom probably, because honestly, to think back, I don't think my and I can't speak for them, but as far as I know, I don't think like on my mom's side of the family, her mom and dad and their mom and dads, I don't think were like quote unquote Christians, praying type people. And on my dad's side of the family, my dad's mom, she was, kind of a Baptist type Christian, but she might have prayed for us kids, but I don't think they're, my great grandparents, I don't even think they were all from Alabama and Oklahoma and stuff. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
it was people I never knew. But I think my mom was she always went to church, and it was a Baptist church, but she always went to church. I still remember her praying and stuff like that, and she wasn't like super spiritual like I'm used to nowadays, the Pentecostal type, like praise the Lord, But I think she prayed for her kids, or me and my sister. And one thing I do want to say is my sister growing up never went to church. Never was. I don't want to say never was exposed to it, because my mom did expose us to it, but my sister never wanted to go to church. She never ever that I know of ever opened a Bible. My dad wasn't big into it and stuff, but just recently, it was like a few months ago, I was talking because me and my sister are really close. I was talking to her she had FaceTimed me, and we had talked for like an hour just about life and stuff. And right before we hung up, she said, and I'm not going to get choked up, but right before we hung up, she was like, hey, I just want to let you know I started reading the Bible. And of course I'm like, wait, what? And like my wife, Sarah's sitting in the living room, and I'm like, Sarah, Lindsay started reading the Bible, like I started freaking out or whatever. But it was just, there's something there that like my sister's 4 years older than me. So she'll be 44 this year. She's never been into the Bible, but something in her sparked. Nothing has happened dramatically in her life to make it happen. All of a sudden, she's reading the Bible. So to me, it's just like, what is going on here? Yeah. Like something great is going on. So I don't know.
Praise God.
Yeah, like me and my wife Sarah has always been, preaching the gospel to her and stuff like that. But it's just kind of,
she's like, okay.
I don't want to say she doesn't absorb it, but it just kind of goes over her head and stuff. But maybe I don't know. Maybe there's something held on there, and
a seed was planted.
Yeah.
That's the best way to, because then all of a sudden she's like, after talking to her for an hour on FaceTime, oh, by the way, I started reading my Bible. And then I tell Sarah, I'm like, she's reading the Bible, and then of course Sarah's like, oh, I got a good reading plan for you. It was awesome though, so that really touched my heart. But anyways,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end too.
Yeah. So maybe next time we'll talk about other things. I got so much stuff to talk about.
Oh man,
he's got so much in there.
I literally could have a podcast from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. As long as there's cold beer. Cold beer and clean air.
Yeah, cold air. Yeah, clean air.
Maybe a little coffee in the morning, but
yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you, Justin, for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yet another time. It only took 48 episodes to get you back on, but we got you back on.
Dang, it's been that long.
Yeah, you were on number 20. That was amazing.
I think I've listened to maybe 16 of all those between. Some of them I'm just not interested.
Video games.
Yeah.
Like a deep dive on a Netflix show. What the heck is it?
Yeah, or like, what is it called? The Japanese cartoons. The
anime episodes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, I'm really not into anime.
I'm not into this.
Yeah. No.
Oh, well, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll have you on soon, I think, very soon. And then, David, thank you for being you, and appreciate you and all that you do. And not just that, but thank you for the hair, for the beard. We'll always be grateful for the beard.
Fear the beard.
Fear. Cherish. Lavish the beard. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Snarp Fangle on.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
No, it's the backpack.
Camp time, baby! Camp time, baby!